Hey yo, Z-Man, Suicide Polo with the Ski Man. I'm back with that next installment of that Sumner series. You heard, shout out to the bro, Black Knowledge, Brooklyn legend, Bed-Stuy legend. Shout out to the whole Bed-Stuy, the whole Brooklyn, Sumner, Tompkins, Marcy, Roosevelt, Bushwick projects, Williamsburg projects, Borinquen, Lindsay. And if I forgot anything, curse me out in the comments, you heard? Z-Lord. Can't forget N.A. Rock. Can't forget that side block gang. That side block gang moving out here. You heard? Shout out to Wise. Shout out to Smoke. Know what I mean? And let me know if you rep that side block gang. Everybody ain't from the projects. We got some notorious and historical blocks. Side blocks all through New York City. That whole serious weight and historical value out here. And we gonna cover those too, and that's a fact. Get at me. At those times when you was like 15, 16, and y'all was doing Project Patrol and all of that, was it ever somebody that you could honestly say you was scared of that was in Bed-Stuy?
That's a serious question, lads. Like you said,
scared. All right, let me not say scared. Let me say among that you was uneasy around because he was just as vicious as you. And was it ever a dude on your level that you had to really be worried about?
All right, so to honestly and objectively answer that question for you, lads, I'm gonna have to put it like this. So me particularly, I respected, you know, other individuals that put on the way I put on, right? Because it was a lot of dudes in Brooklyn and from other areas, but we specifically speaking about Brooklyn right now with this Brooklyn history. There's a lot of dudes from Brooklyn, like I said in other stories, that were putting on. So I respected dudes that were putting on, you know, up to the same level or around the same level that myself and my team of dudes were putting on for. But as far as fearing, nah, dude, I didn't fear nobody, homie. Nobody. I didn't fear nobody because so my thing is, right, my logic, the way I think about things is really like, I don't have to fear no man because everybody bleeds, homie. Everybody bleeds and anybody can die. So I told you before that it's all about who gets the draw first or the drop. So I told you, we practiced things in my hood. In my projects, we practiced things. We had drills. We practiced backing out the hammer first. We practiced or the draw. We practiced the draw. Homie, in my hood, we used to, on some Western type shit, count paces. We used to put our backs to each other back, walk forward, count paces like 3, 4, 5, 10 paces and spin and see who could get the blicky out first. So we do. I mean, like, it's funny to me because I'm just like, I'm getting a little bit excited just because that question like is just starting to take me there and give me flashbacks. But to answer your question, in case you have another question so we can move on, nah, I didn't fear nobody. I respected the other hitters that was putting on, and I knew who wasn't playing the same way we wasn't playing. So, you know, I kept my eye on those type of dudes. But in terms of fear, nah, I didn't fear nobody because anybody could get it.
Why do they refer to the dude you was running around with as a serial killer, and what turned him into that?
Which dude are you referring to? Because I ran with a lot of dudes.
Nah, you
talking about my right hand man?
I ran with a lot of serial killers, but it's like, yo, nah. You said, yo, in a story that we did, you like, yo, man, there's no other way to explain him. He's a serial killer. Know what I mean? And then when I was interviewing Smoke, he said the same thing. He didn't mention, I don't think he mentioned the name, but he was like, listen, man, them niggas was running around with a serial killer.
Right. So in hindsight, when I think back on that, like serial killer might be not a stretch, but the wrong choice of words. I would term my homie as more of a sociopath than a sociopath mixed with a little bit of a psycho, but not necessarily a serial killer. But the reason homie got that title is because the work he was putting in, the pain he was putting in. He put in a lot of pain, and you know, he was letting that thing go, and he was, you know, he was putting in a lot of work. So with respect to how, you know, dudes viewed each other, so in crews, right, you have, like, I don't know how other dudes' crews were, but in the crews we had like almost like a hierarchy system, right? Not even necessarily a hierarchy system. I would like to just call it like a label system where everybody in your team had a particular label and you knew what they did, right? So like in my team of dudes, like you referring to Knowledge B, Charlie. Knowledge B was like the sociopath psycho a little bit, because of, in my observations, was because of his daring acts and deeds. Like the shit that he did, like you didn't necessarily and normally see people doing on a regular, even dudes that was putting on. His shit was always upping it to crazy type levels. I told you, he was the one hanging out the window, you know what I mean, out the car when we was, you know, shooting dudes. He would be the dude that be on the back of the motorcycle. He'd be like, yo, you ride the bike, I'll be on the back, I'm gonna face the other way, and I'm be shooting. This is homie. He's on the back, you know, I got stories where I'm on the dirt bike and he's on the back of the bike with me facing the opposite way, not even holding on to me. I guess he got his knees locked in. Well, that dude, he was different, bro. And he was just shooting. Psycho. I can't think of him as no other way than a sociopath and a slight psycho, because of the shit that he used to do and the way he would do shit. He the one who put us on to firebombs. I didn't know, you know, necessarily what a firebomb is. When I say firebomb, I mean like a cocktail or a Molotov cocktail or whatever shit was. He was the first dude I actually seen outside of television, like in real life, pour gasoline out of the stolen bikes that we had, stick a rag or something in that shit, and say, yo, when we get to where we get, before we start shooting, let me light this, and then I'm gonna throw it, and it's gonna explode. Like, yo, this dude was like wild crazy with his imagination and the way he went in. So that's why, you know, he got that label. So everybody in my team had a different label. Everybody was known for doing something specific that made them stand out, you know what I mean, from I guess everybody else in the team and shit.
He was older than you?
Nah. Knowledge B was probably a year younger than me or 2 years younger than me. He was my age, but he wasn't older than me. His older brother Raleigh was the oldest. Raleigh was older than me, but Knowledge was like either my age or maybe a year or two younger than me. All right, so I told you, we graduated from hand-to-hand combat. We graduated from fighting with our hands to weapons, knives, razors, knives, bottles, bats, chains, and then eventually guns when the hammers came in. But even as a little dude, but now he was from Tompkins, so he would come through Sumner, right? So he was always wild. I told you we started from the fighting eras and all that. So back then in the young era, you know, Knowledge was from across the street in Tompkins, his grandmother, whatever, and you know, he would sometimes come through Sumner, and some of the times that I would see him coming through Sumner, you know, he was just a regular cool dude and shit or whatever, but a couple times I see him put on with his little knuckle check, whatever, and he had a different unorthodox style of fighting. Like when I was beat, everything used to go with his fight. So that's kind of when I knew he was a little bit weird and different, because the way he would fight, before he would fight, he would get down on the floor, do like 5 push-ups, and jump up and like I'm ready. Like I've never seen a dude do push-ups right before a fight or do all these wild different stretches and shit. No, this is all facts, bro. Wild different stretches and push-ups, and then jump up and be like, yeah, I'm ready. And his fights were so wild that they would start on the ground, right, guys? But they would go up to anything. Like if you know, when they fight and he get into the benches, they would like climb the bench and be fighting on top of the bench and get on top of the top part of the bench where your back rests at and standing on there holding the fence, socking each other. The dude now is crazy, bro. I can't describe him as anything short of fucking crazy, bro. That was, rest in peace to the homie, man. That was my guy. He was he was definitely certified. He was definitely certified.
Well, when did y'all start messing with each other?
Right. So like I said, we first met on interactions like back in the days when everybody started getting knowledge of self. Like, so that would have been around the age of like 9, 10, 11, depending on when dudes got knowledge of self. So everybody started getting the attribute, and dudes used to come around building.
Who was giving everybody knowledge of self in Sumner?
Various different people. You had dudes from Bushwick Projects and Bo Rinkin coming to Sumner, enlightening dudes. And then you had dudes from Tompkins enlightening dudes. So my earliest recollection was it was a lot of dudes from Bo Rinkin and Bushwick Projects that had that knowledge of self, and then they brought it over to Sumner, and then the dudes in Sumner got enlightened, and then it just kept continuing like that. But getting back to the question you asked, how we started fucking with each other. So back then, like I said, from 9, 10, whatever ages, we had those first encounters with each other, seeing each other in the street. So I always knew about them coming up with my team of dudes in Sumner. We was coming up. We always heard about Knowledge B in Tompkins doing his things. He was wild, like we was wild. So you hear about the wild dudes, hear about other wild dudes, and they keep their eye on them for whatever conflict or whatever. So like I told you before, a lot of times the dudes that became cool with me rather, were dudes that we had situations with or whatever, some form of conflict. So how we first started fucking with Knowledge like heavy like that, Knowledge B used to hang with this dude named Joe, my homie Joe and shit. Shout out to the homie Joe from Bushwick Project and shit. My man Joe. And Joe was another wild dude and shit. Joe was a wild boy, little gun buster, fighter and all that. So Joe used to come through Sumner in order to get the Tompkins and shit to go see Knowledge B. So on a couple of occasions, you know what I mean, me and Joe, we had a little stare down contest and shit. Whatever, he looking all crazy, I'm looking, but we never really violated. I just let it go a lot of times because I'm like, all right, I know who he is. He going across the street to see the homie and shit. And I told you, if I didn't tell you, I'm gonna tell you now. I was close with Raleigh, Knowledge B older brother. So that was, you know what I mean, like one of the dudes that used to teach me a lot of shit. So I knew that Knowledge B was his younger brother. So me, I respected like certain protocols and shit. I would never violate unless forced to take it there. Like, so if I'm tight with Raleigh and he like a big bro to me, and I know he got a little bro that's kind of wild, but I don't fuck with him, I'm gonna make sure that myself and my team of dudes, we stay away from him so we don't ever get into any conflict and clash. And it won't be a problem where you know what I mean, if I have to put on or he have to try to put on me, and then I have a issue with his older brother, like, damn, bro, you know, that's my little bro, y'all could get, you know what I mean? So avoid that type of shit. We steer clear of certain dudes. But Knowledge B used to, like I told you, we used to ride bikes and shit. Knowledge B he was a bike enthusiast, a bike fanatic, and a bike thief. So he used to come riding through Sumner on his dirt bike, on his trail bikes. So one day we was all deep in the projects and shit, and he came up. Him, I think it was him and Joe. Him and Joe, maybe, I think he had some cats from Crown Heights with him too on bikes. Now, I know they was deep. Like they was like I don't know, like 7, 8 deep, whatever. We was in the projects behind this building called 66, sitting in the lane on the benches by the big field. So at this time he came up, and now was the type of dude that he respected certain dudes. So if he heard about dudes or whatever, Knowledge B was the type of dude that would come up to you, approach you, and be like, yo, you know what I mean, I heard about you, heard you a good dude, a solid dude. My brother talks about you a lot, he likes you, I never met you like that, so let me introduce myself to you. Remember, we was kids then. We was no longer kids now. We 15, 16, we playing with hammers and all that. So he came up into the projects with the bikes, we sitting down on the lane, he pulled up on the bikes with his dudes and introduced himself like, yo, I heard about y'all dudes. I know y'all dudes get busy. No disrespect. We ain't trying to come through here and disrespect y'all. Nothing. We basically coming trying to fuck with y'all, whatever. And he's like, yo, anybody know how to ride a bike? And we was like, nah, I never rode a bike before. My homie H, Big H from the building, H was another bike enthusiast. He was like, nah, but we want to learn, like, you know what I mean? How you ride them shits. So that's how we actually really physically met, and our bond was established from that day when Knowledge B came into the projects with Joe and a couple dudes from Crown Heights on those motorcycles. All them shits probably was stolen, and they taught us how to ride bikes, and it was no looking back from there.
That's an extraordinary type of teenager, man. I mean, to approach dudes like that.
Listen, homie, you gotta remember, bro, we, just like I was schooled by older dudes, like my uncle, with my cheat code, other dudes had their own cheat codes and their own older dudes. His older brother, Raleigh, was an official, solid dude, bro. Not just because, so when I say dudes be official, homie, I don't just mean they official because they bust their gun and they put in work and they was these notorious criminals. Or no, bro, when I say, yeah, it encompasses that, but there's more to being an official dude in my eyesight. In my eyes, bro, an official dude is one dude who does those things that I mentioned previously, but also that's a solid dude, bro, that has respect in a community, that knows how to, you know what I mean, interact with people in the community and navigate through situations, because growing up in the projects is different. It takes a lot of different elements to navigate through that. So I was a watcher. I told you I watched everybody. So I was able to see the dudes that, to me, I said, yo, those dudes got a nice head on their shoulder. Those dudes are intelligent dudes. Let me stick around those type of dudes to get the game, because I was thirsty for knowledge and information. I was thirsty for the game. So Knowledge, older brother Raleigh, I'm quite sure they in the crib together or whatever. I'm guessing that he would school him and put him on. And Knowledge B also hung with the older dudes from his projects that, you know, that I didn't really get into yet. The Shabus and the Ramiks and Word and the K-Son, you know what I mean, and True and all the dudes. These are all older, solid dudes from our hood that used to give us game, and we watched how they personified themselves, how they carried themselves, and we emulated that, and we, you know what I mean. So now when we take that information, we get it from the older cats to our peer level age group, we implementing that. So for him to come up to us and say, yo, homie, we not trying to come through, run through your projects, disrespectful or nothing. You know, we know who y'all are, so we want to introduce ourselves and figure out if we could get together and become a stronger force as a team. And like you said, that was real shit, because I think we spoke about this before, and you said, Laz, that, yeah, because riding a trail bike through somebody's hood was disrespectful. And in fact, it kind of was, because, you know, when you ride them dirt bikes, you wilding, wheelies and speeding and disrespectfully blowing past people. So yeah, it was a lot with that. So he had enough insight to say, yo, we like 3, 4, 5 deep riding these Knowledge and these dudes' hoods. Let's go show them some respect. And I don't know what was his plan, bro, but it worked. We started fucking with each other from that day forth. Yeah, that's a fact, man. Homie, like I said, man, that was my guy, man. That was my guy. He was a all the way solid dude. But great to see how all this shit is great transitioning, because now it also can transition into some of you know, how we interacted with other dudes. So like I said before in one of the episodes, I don't know when it was, but I know I told you that I was a dude that a lot of dudes liked from a lot of different areas and shit. Aside from, you know, the dudes that liked me, the dudes that didn't like me for whatever reason. They didn't like me or whatever. But the dudes that liked me because they saw, I guess, that I had a head on my shoulders. Again, I was being schooled since I was 7. So now I'm double that age, so of course I'm gonna have a nice little head on my shoulders if I was paying attention and being a studious individual. So the same way Knowledge used to do that, or he did that intro with us, is kind of like the same way, kind of like we got cool with some of the dudes, got cool with some of the Marcy dudes. Aside from us going to school together, you know what I mean, we went to school together, so dudes kind of linked up and met in schools or whatever. But outside of schools, in the hoods, you know, dudes would go to each other's hoods and kind of like, you know, stand around for a little bit, ice grilling each other, and then the ice grills turn to, yo, the sups and all that, and then the sups turn to, yo, we going down there pulling up, or they coming up to our house pulling up, and then we going out to do random shit. So I guess so the Marcy dudes came up. The Marcy dudes came about, I guess, in a little bit after the digging pocket era. So, you know, the pocket was, you know, it was an era where dudes was digging pockets and all that. Our shit wasn't something. We wasn't digging no pockets. We was just taking it like strong arm shit. We was all that finessing and digging pocket and try to pickpocket you or snatch your pocket and run. Now we wasn't doing that. We always rolled deep, 30, 40, 50 deep. We had dudes for certain shit. So if we going in your pocket, we knocking you out first and then going in your pocket. We ain't doing all that, you know, snatching and running shit. We had my man Weebo from 808 to 8 building. My son Weebo, he was the dead arm. So I told you, each dude in my team had a title, lads, and I guess as I'm speaking about them, their role and the title in the team will come to play. So Weebo was our dead arm specialist when we was in the getting money in Midtown era, running in the jewelry stores and hitting pockets and all that wild shit, or running in clothing stores and taking everything. See, we never boosted. I told you, our shit was take. We not all the finesse and all of that nice and sneaky shit. No, we was brazen takers. We coming in your establishment and whatever we want, we're taking, and you're just gonna have to stop us. So when we used to go in them clothing stores like Macy's and all that, go in there, take as much as your arms can carry, and you put it on your arms, start marching to the front door, and security be at the door and all that. We go up there and dead arm the shit out of whoever's at the door. I'm talking about this. We was young too, so he had a dead arm since a young age, not to do it out of the front door, and we would march out the stores. So them dudes in Marcy, they might have, and Roosevelt, whatever, that was boosting and all that, doing it a little differently, and they heard about us with our strong arm tactics. Of course, it makes sense if everybody's out there in Midtown doing these type of crimes to get together. So we would be out there, not necessarily went out there together, but we would bump into other dudes, the Chicagos and the Miamis and all them dudes that was out there running the city, running the stores and boosting and hitting jewelry stores, doing the same shit we was doing. We would beat out there, see each other, and say, fuck it. We out here getting money. Ain't no beef right here, out here now while we trying to get this money. Fuck it, let's get this money together. And that would just make us a stronger, more viable force to be reckoned with when we went on those missions. And all the jury that we had in my era, not my generation, not the older cats, I don't know how they got their shit, but my team of dudes, all of the jury that we had, lads, all the big cables and rings and all that shit you see now was in HDM and all that other shit I had in the streets, we took that. We didn't buy none of that. We took that. Brazen jewelry store heists, running up in jewelry stores, beating the shit out of everybody in the jewelry store and taking everything we want. What are you going to do against 30, 40 dudes, right? We come in your establishment 30, 40 deep. If you dumb enough to buzz us in and we get in there, if you ain't got the hammer to stop us, then we doing what we want to do. That was the mentality back then. Lads, in them early 80s, you know what I mean? When we was on them type of, at that type of time, at that period of time when we was running around doing all that crazy shit. So again, met a lot of dudes, school, Eastern District and all that. So that's how we started hanging out and getting cool with the Marcy dudes. So the Marcy dudes down there in Marcy, they had a night. So Marcy kind of mimicked us in terms of how deep they was with they crew of dudes. So from my recollection of the dudes that we interacted with the most and that was deep in Marcy, the same way we was deep in Sumner would have been T-Lo, Love, Half, Shoe, Gate, Tree, Hug, Bum Bum, Trini. It was, and I guess they had their older heads. So that was the little crew of dudes that was our age. Tata, and all of that we ran with, and then they had they old heads, which would have been Danny Dan, Moet, you know what I mean? Probably How About them. I'm not sure how that whole thing interacted or whatever. Man, God Supreme from Marcy, and it was crazy because it was a nice blend. So I'm a fast forward because it's a lot to try to keep all this shit in perspective. But I'm gonna just fast forward to specific incidences because we talking about like history or whatever, Brooklyn history, and some of the blends. So Knowledge B didn't get along with the dudes from Marcy. So whatever situations they had a couple of encounters, a couple of run-ins where they got into whatever they got into with Knowledge B. Then there was a couple times where I would either go down there to see them dudes, or they would come up and see us, and they would say, "Yo, boy, like this dude. I mean, we coming up here to see y'all, Sumner. We got to get through Tompkins." A couple times we having a couple little problems with this dude, Knowledge B. So I kind of had to dead that beef. So once Knowledge became cool with us and became a part of the team, I had to explain to him. Because he didn't like a lot of dudes. I don't know, I told you he was just different. He didn't like a lot of dudes, so I would always have to sit him down, explain to him about, yo, boy, the differences and the advantages of being unified as opposed to being separated. And I would always hit him with reason. I'll be like, yo, homie, the same way you came into RPs with your little dudes and gave us the respect and said, yo, you heard about us and you think we would be a better team of individuals if we was unified, same holds true to them Marcy dudes. We fuck with them heavy like that. So if we fuck with them heavy like that and you fuck with us heavy, you can't beef with them. So whatever issues and with all that shit y'all had, y'all got to put back to the side. And then one day I took Knowledge me down there and sat him down with, we was out in the bench in Marcy on I don't know, on the other side where the side where Tilo was from. And I took Knowledge B there, and it was me, Knowledge B, Hash, H, it was Tilo, Love, Half. I think Shu was there too, I'm not sure. But we all sat down and I said, yo, listen, bro, like whatever y'all had when we was younger, whatever, that shit is corny. That shit is out the window. Now we trying to get this money. Yeah, dudes is starting to hustle a little bit, get these hammers. All that kitty shit is out the window. If it wasn't no man downs and nothing serious, then we're going to leave that alone and we're going to become a strong unit. And then that's what we did. So that's when you had the Sumner, Tompkins, and Marcy together, bro. And when that came into play, guys, that part of Brooklyn, that side of Brooklyn, it was crazy. The turn-ups was crazy, bro. The turn-ups was crazy. We was giving it to any and everybody. Any and everybody. We was doing it on our own, or, if not necessarily instructed by, or if our big homies had situations that, they needed taken care of and they couldn't get to, we was the younger up and coming cats, we was taking care of that. We would go and handle all situations that they felt either they couldn't get to handle themselves, or they just wanted to see if we was up to the task. So that's how a lot of dudes came up in the hoods by putting a lot of work in, dudes seeing that they could put on, and then the older dudes recruiting them. And so it was just wild. Like I said, it was wild political. It was just wild in terms of the old heads from the projects, the East Projects. And what was weird, was interesting that the generation before us, I don't think they necessarily fucked with each other like that. They did, but not to the extent that we did, because we used to be together every single day, running around, putting in cane. Sumner, Tompkins, Marcy, some dudes from Bushwick included in that, and every single day, because Joe was from Bushwick, and every single day we running around putting on in Brooklyn.
Was other dudes able to roam around, and Marcy dudes was able to roam around in Sumner and Tompkins without worry and stuff like that?
If they was fucking with us, yeah, that's a fact. If they was fucking with us, right? Because remember, we passed the Project Patrol now. Because I told you the Project Patrol fizzled out. When the hammers, when the serious beefs started coming with the Hammer. So dudes was able to come through if they was known and if they was fucking with somebody on the team. And that's why I told you a lot of times, you know, projects are big and somebody gonna know somebody. If you a dude, right? If you a stand-up dude and your name resonating in some shape, form, or fashion, or you just a good, solid dude, somebody out of the team is gonna know you, bro. You know what I mean? So some dudes were able to roam around. Sumner, Tompkins, Marcy. Other dudes weren't. If you weren't from the hood, bro, if you weren't from our hood, bro, and you didn't come through our hood with a solid stand-up dude, you weren't allowed to come in our hood. So Madge was one of the dudes in my hood that brought other dudes from other hoods into the hood to see him. And, you know, Madge was a solid stand-up dude. So when dudes used to come through to see Madge, you know, dudes, that's how we met other dudes. So Madge, you know, used to hang around with K-Sun and Tuck from the east and R-True from down in the fourth. So them dudes would come into the projects to see Madge, and Madge like, yeah, like, yo, Madge, who the hell? That's my son from such, that's the homie. You get busy, whatever. And these was older dudes, so that's how you start hearing about dudes' reputations. And then them same older dudes, they put in work, and they hearing about us, so they getting to meet us too. Oh, so this is knowledge. This is hash. Oh, this is poise. These dudes heard about us like we heard about them. So when they came through, dudes would make sure that dudes got introduced to dudes, so it wouldn't be no problems. And then from those introductions, led to the various situations and the encounters that we got into. And I told you, so at this point in time, where dudes is blended together, again, you know, we had some dudes from LG that was running with us too. We had some dudes from Fort Greene that was fucking with us, and we had some dudes from Farragut. Like, I started with dudes in Farragut from back in the early days. Dudes, I was fucking with these two twins. I think they lived in 202, building 202 Farragut. The Sass brothers, Dion and Devon. And Dion, yeah, the twin, yep, the twins and shit. Those was my guys from Farragut, and they had their team of dudes. So basically that's how we, you know, dudes kind of started connecting with each other, because again, we started in schools. You meet dudes from different areas of schools. You start hanging out with them. You go into their hood. You see if they solid stand-up dudes in their hood, if they got respect in their hood. And then, then we start bringing them down to our hood, introducing them to the dudes in our hood, and vice versa. So that's how all of that shit started coming into play. And I was telling you about earlier how dudes start. So at one point in time, so we could just take it from Murder Avenue all the way down. So if you take it from Murder Avenue, like Murder in Broadway or Murder in Lewis, up there by Sumner, and go straight down Murder Avenue, you're going to have Sumner projects. You keep going down, you're going to have Tompkins projects. Keep going straight down Murder, you're going to hit Marcy projects. Keep going straight down Murder. Eventually, you're going to come into Clinton Hill projects. LG going to veer off a little bit to the left. It's off of Murder, but it's still in that proximity of, as we going down. Then after we pass Clinton Hill, then you go smack in the Fort Greene, and then to the back of Fort Greene was Farragut. So that whole Myrtle Avenue strip was they called it Murder Ave. Actually, that whole Myrtle Avenue strip was lit back in the 80s with Brooklyn cats that was putting on from Sumner all the way down to Fort Greene and Farragut. And that's how you got some of those stories of interactions with dudes. And again, some of them started with beefs, like, you know what I mean? With the Tracy joint, like we was trying to back him down and take his hammer, and he wasn't having it. To the times with the Killer Benz, when we went down to Fort Greene to see R-True and them, and Ben and them, and J-Rock and them was like, probably like, yo, who the fuck is all these dudes in our hood, bro? Because whenever we went places, we went deep, 30, 40, 50 deep. So they was probably like, yo, who these dudes in the hood coming down here, you know what I mean, to see the homies and shit. So they probably, matter of fact, that's a whole story right there. We was going down to Fort Greene to see our troops about like I told you too, I keep it a bean. I keep it all the way 100. The same way. So this is a similar incident to when I told you about Hash and myself, when we saw Tracy and whoever he was. I believe there might have been a little dude named Crime. I'm not sure, but whatever. I told you about that situation. We didn't know who they was. We was gonna try to get at them, whatever. And I told you about my homie that was there that day that diffused that situation. His name is True. So True was from Tompkins and used to be down in Fort Greene, or he was from Fort Greene, used to be down in Tompkins, whichever one it was. But he was down in Fort Greene. We was going to check him. So we went down to Fort Greene to check True, and we was deep. I don't know, we was about 15, 20, 25 deep. So again, now in hindsight, right, and looking back, I can see how a lot of problems would have started, because although we was going to check somebody and we wasn't doing nothing necessarily out of pocket, the fact that you coming in somebody else's hood that projects that deep is kind of like the way you view riding a dirt bike through somebody's hood as disrespectful. Even though you're not necessarily doing anything, we wasn't going down to Fort Greene trying to put
deep.
on.
You're too deep in somebody else's projects. It's gonna cause some type of animosity.
That's a fact, and that's how a lot of the Bushwick shit got into play, because we used to go in projects deep. We wasn't necessarily going down there to do nothing, but just the fact that we were so deep, I guess the dudes from those hoods is like, yo, hold on, bro, this is too much. There's too many dudes here, and our hood, and again, I'm gonna just keep it in the story frame. So we went down to Fort Greene. We went to see True. We in the park. We on the Myrtle Avenue side, like when you first get to. I guess that's what they would call the first side of the projects. Like this little corner stores there, and then you could go into the projects right there. And they used to be right there on the benches or whatever inside that little circle, whatever. And it was True. I think it was Tom Mel. Might have been Jamel. I think Rap was there, and I know Killer Ben and J Rock and them might have been there too. And whatever whatever homies from Fort Greene that was down there, it was deep. They was deep in the park, and we came through unannounced, deep as shit, marching right into their park. Looking, because we wasn't afraid of nobody. So we coming through, and we ice staring dudes like they ice staring us. But I knew Rap, and I knew Tom Mel, and I knew Jamel. You know what I mean? And I knew True. So we was coming down and see them. So once they seen me embrace True and True embrace us and start talking to us, it eased the tensions up a little bit amongst the older dudes. But I guess Ben and them, they was the younger dudes, the hitters that I was putting on their product. Was like, yo, who the fuck is these dudes? because True didn't say, yo, everybody, this is knowledge and Heart and Hash and H&M from down. So dudes didn't do that, bro. If you knew who dudes was, you knew, and if you didn't know and you wanted to find out, then go find out. And you know what I mean? And you would have found out one way or the other. So that's what that situation was. We was in the projects, we stayed for like 5-10 minutes. I seen Ben and them scheming. I didn't know who he was at the particular time because I heard Ben and all the work he was putting in and all the running around and shit he was doing, but I never actually seen him with my own eyes. So the dudes I saw was like, because Ben is short. Ben is short. Anybody know Killer Ben know Ben was short. So in my eyes, I'm thinking like these is like little dudes, like kids or whatever. But nah, these was the hitters. They just was short, you know what I mean? But they was the hitters. So again, I'm always on point, lads. So I see the movements. I see the dude that's acting like he's not a part of, the circle, slide off to the left and start going towards the buildings. I see another dude sliding off to another direction, going to another building. I know what that means because we do that. So you and our hood, and dudes ain't got the right amount of blickies or blickies on them and all that. The dudes know what to do. Dudes, slide off and go get those things. So now I'm talking to the homies, but I'm telling my homies, yo, y'all seen them dudes slide off, so start getting on point. You know what I mean? Y'all know what it is. I didn't know what it was, but I don't know what they was doing. They probably was going to slide off thinking we was coming to do something or whatever, but they was following whatever protocols they had. They did the right thing. They went to grip up, arm up. Cool. I peeped game. I seen it. I'm putting my dudes on point. Even though it ain't no problem, if dudes come back grippy, it could always lead to something. So we gonna be on point regardless. So, you know, I guess, you know, I true enough, they peeping the tension, they peeping the body language. As I told you, we was militant. So my dudes, we start, when I put dudes on, like, yo, you know, and dudes start moving around, and, you know, we taking perimeter positions now. So, you know, the dudes, yo, I'm gonna catch y'all when I come down the way. We going to do whatever, what y'all getting into. Like, no, we just came to check you. We was going up this way to Atlantic Terminals, and we going up on Fulton Street side to do whatever we doing. All right, I get with you later. So, boom, I peeped that as a way of them telling us to breeze, because they didn't want nothing to happen, because they knew that them little dudes, they homies was sliding up and get the hammers. They already knew we was grippy, because they seen the body language in the positions we started taking up. So they was like, no. Y'all need to get the fuck out of here before it gets crazy. So now here's the best part of this. How we really, you know, fully not met, but the situation that led up to us meeting eventually later on. So now, as we leave in the park, you know what I mean? So I told you, we 15, 20, maybe 30 deep. We leaving. I would always stand, you know, as we leave the park, I would always stand till the last man with me left, like, because we, you know, nobody gets left behind but us. So, you know, the main dudes and my team, we would stand in the front till everybody pulled out. You know what I mean? Everybody got out. So once everybody got out the park, we're on Myrtle Avenue now. So now we crossed over to across the street. And the reason we went across the street to the side where Fort Greene Park was, and I don't know what street that is, but that street that leads, the dudes from Fort Greene that be listening, they know what street I'm talking about. The street that leads right up, heading in the direction towards DeKalb Avenue or whatever, that you could go up that street from the first side of the projects. We went across the street. I told dudes to go across the street and take up positions, because I'm seeing, as we leaving, the last man coming out the park, we going across the street, I'm seeing them same dudes that left and slid off to the buildings. I see them coming back, and they coming back with more dudes. So I'm like, yeah. So I start smiling. So I'm like, and now as we start like shaking, like whenever he starts shaking and bouncing around, I know he ready to go. So I'm like, chill, son. I was like, they was just with the homies, and like obviously they with them. They don't know what we down here for. Once they see we leaving, that it wasn't a problem, then they probably gonna stand down and relax. But now it's like, boy, if they come across the street, you already know I'm gone. I'm like, chill. I'm like, chill. So I'm like, yo, listen, let's go. Let's make this right and go up this block. I said, when we go up this block, if they come out the projects and come across the street on this block, then y'all already know what it is. So when we turn the block, it's trees, you know what I mean, on the outside of the Fort Greene Park walls. It's like little trees or whatever, like along the block. So as we go up the block, I'm telling my homies, I'm like, yo, take position. So dudes immediately started jumping behind trees and getting behind the parked cars that was on that street. So now, this had been crazy to the Fort Greene dudes, and the dudes that was there that day, they gotta remember. I told you it was like 20, 30 of us. So imagine you see 20, 30 dudes walking up a block, right? Going up a block, and if you in the back in the projects and you see them go that way, when we went up that block, Killer Ben and them came out the projects to the Ave to come up, I guess, to probably come behind us to see what we was. I don't know what their intention was. I can't speak to their intentions until I get to that part of the story where Ben and I got together years later, laughed about it and talked about it. So they seen us go up that block, but then when they came running, because I seen them running, when they came running out the projects to look up the block to see what we got, they ain't see nothing but an empty block. And probably hats and heads peeking from behind trees, because we already took position, because I already told you I saw the dudes coming back from the buildings with more dudes. So I'm like, yo, get across the street, get behind the tree, take position, and take position to us mean get cover so we can, you know what I mean, get the firing. We don't do no running. Wasn't going to be no running, and only running we was going to be doing was back at their asses if they would have upped it like that. But in the meantime, we not going to be stationary, visible, easy targets. So we jumped behind the trees. The other homies jumped behind the cars. Knowledge B was behind one car. I was behind one tree. Hash H, Weibo was another dude besides Ghetto. When he got into the gun game, he used to like to drop to one knee. So Weibo was already bent down on one knee, you know what I mean, in a position. If they would have came up that block, lads, it wouldn't have been good because we had the positions already and we had the cover. They would have had to come up the block to us devoid of any cover. They would have had to come straight to us and would have been in the open. So I guess, you know, Killer Ben, he wasn't no dummy. I guess when he looked up the block and didn't see nobody, he knew we was behind trees and cars. So it was about maybe 8 or 9 dudes. I seen them congregating by the entrance of the projects. I don't know what they was congregating about, but it looked like they was trying to decide whether or not they should go up that block. And I know for a fact, I'll never forget, I seen our true tall ass, because he was taller than us. I seen him come out the park and was like, and talking to him like, waving his hand and shaking his head like, nah, bro, like, don't do it, whatever. And that's how that situation dissolved. So they didn't come up that block. We seen our true come out the park of the projects, talk to them dudes, and they started like shaking their head. Their body language looked like they was annoyed and angry because they looked like they wanted to engage us. But I guess the older dudes prevailed and told them, nah, they went back in the project. And then later on, probably the next time I saw our true down in the hood, he told me, he's like, yeah. I said, yo, homie, I saw the little homies. I saw the play they was about to bust, and I ain't want to violate because they was there with y'all. But if they would have came up that block, homie, we was giving them the business. And his exact words was like, yo, homie, I know that y'all had the positions. He said, I seen y'all when y'all started bouncing behind trees and cars. And I told them, yo, don't go up that block fucking with them dudes. And he said, Ben asked me, yo, who is that? Who was that? And he was like, yo, that's Knowledge in them from down in Sumner. So this is how it was too, lads, right? A lot of times when you hear about dudes and you hear about the work they put in and you never get to see them and you see them in a type of almost like confrontational situation, you want to see if they put on like you heard about. Because that was the same way we was. We wanted to see if dudes was about that shit that we heard about. So they was the same way we was. So they probably, wanted to engage us. And later on, years later, when I ran in the bend and we was up north behind the wall and we replayed that story, he had his own funny version of it. And he was like, oh, we would have had y'all because we knew y'all was behind the trees. So we just gonna run down and just start blasting and start picking y'all off. I was like, I don't know what movie you thought you was in, my nigga, but it wasn't gonna go down that way. You know what I mean? But those are some of the funnier, interesting stories that I had about how dudes interacted. And then from that point on, when our truth came down, he told us, yo, that was Ben and all. I was like, yeah, I heard about son. I know he put on and all that. But yo, boy, you gotta let them know we put on too. And if there would have been anything, it would have been ugly. So if they fuck with you and we fuck with you, then you might want to talk to them and see if we all can fuck with each other as opposed to us getting into something. Because we still gonna come down here to see you. You know what I mean? We coming down here to Fort Greene to see the homies. I'm coming down here to see Rap. I'm coming down here to see Tom Mel. I'm coming down here to see Ja and the dude and our true dudes I'm fucking with. So if those are your homies, you gotta let them know so it won't be a problem. Because every time we coming right. And if they, if dudes act up, then we gonna do what we do, and the best man gonna win. But that's how some of those situations came about, bro, where dudes started interacting with each other. And it might have even been some of the Marcy homies with us that day when we went down there because we was deep. I don't know what we was going to do. We was probably going to do a crime, bro. Back then, we was always, every day we came out the house, it was up, bro. Every day. There wasn't a day that we came out that our cribs and out our homes back then when it wasn't up. We was on to some sort of adventure involving putting in some sort of work or putting on. Word, homie, that days was crazy.
And what else is crazy about that? when you mobbing to another dude hood mad deep like that, even the dudes, and I'm not saying it was this in this particular situation, but even sometimes the dudes you coming to see be feeling a certain kind of way. Like, yo, y'all coming to check niggas, but y'all coming over here looking mad, intimidating, and wild, and deep down in some of them niggas' hearts, they be wanting you to know that it's other niggas out here that we may not be able to control doing some shit. You understand what I'm saying? And dudes be secretly feeling that, like, yeah, know what I mean? You could come through here mobbing and come check me and all of that. Like I said, I'm not saying this was the situation with Rap or whoever was niggas was coming to see, but niggas also want niggas to know we also got some other young boys out here that they untamed and wild. We still in them, we still training them, so we can't be held accountable for the type of shit that them niggas may do. And niggas be wanting it like that.
You 100% right, man. That's a whole fact, because again, that's how it was in our hood. I told you, in order to come through our hood, you had to know someone of notable repute that was well respected. So we weren't the only ones doing the shit we was doing in Sumner. In Sumner, they was doing that in Tompkins, in Marcy, in Bushwick, in Williamsburg, Bowrinkin, Roosevelt, Farragut, you know what I mean? Brownsville in the East, Cypress. They was doing, yo, listen, homie, there's nothing new under the sun. We didn't design the blueprint for this shit. We had older homies that was putting us onto the game, and we was figuring things out on our own, and we was putting on this particular way. But just because we was putting on that particular way didn't mean other people wasn't doing the same shit. And that's how I told you, a lot of shit happened on the strength of, and a lot of interactions and meetings and hanging out with dudes happened on the strength of something controversial happening first, bro. It's like you had to have some sort of action or the threat of action for dudes to be like, okay, yeah, I like the way them dudes is on point, and all them dudes is ready to put on. And then, you know, dudes respected. We respected dudes that was putting on, because we knew we wasn't the only ones putting on, but we didn't fear nobody. But we respect. There's a difference between respect and fear. You're supposed to respect people. You don't have to fear nobody, but you're supposed to respect people if you want that type of respect, or you take your respect. But we respected people because we knew other people was getting it in the same way we was getting it, especially back in that era of Brooklyn. Boy, that was the zoo. Brooklyn to me has always been like Brooklyn is its own entity, bro. It's like a planet. Brooklyn is self-sustaining, and Brooklyn could be like just another planet by itself with just the size of it, the enormity of it, and the caliber of individuals that you had coming out of Brooklyn in that era, bro. That shit was like the Wild Wild West for real and facts.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too when you was talking about how dudes used to be mobbing in Midtown. I want to say, you know, for those who may be listening and, you know, they not that familiar with New York City, I read some deep shit where basically Brownsville and East New York was undesirable places to live because it was so far from Manhattan. And, you know, other parts of Brooklyn was a little bit closer to Manhattan. Downtown Brooklyn, White Corp, all that shit is right across the bridge. But Brownsville and East New York, the government had to give incentives for people to go over there and live because it was so far from Manhattan. And, you know, transportation wasn't the way it is now. It was so far from Manhattan that it was almost impossible to make a living in Brownsville and East New York. So, and the whole Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, all of that, it was all far from Manhattan where the money was made. So this is how robbery became the go-to hustle in Brooklyn. And bro, you know, off the record, I was in Manhattan the other day and I just was looking around and I said, yo, you know what? You know what's different about New York, bro, than other places? The white people here are rich. Like in other places, white people be poor. You understand what I'm saying? But in New York, my nigga, all the white people are rich, basically. So it's a different kind of racism, and it made motherfuckers want to go to Midtown and bust in Diamond District stores, windows, and rob and snatch, because we couldn't afford none of that shit, bro. Niggas had motherfucking Columbia coats and Benetton outlet, the Benetton store that was on 50th Street, and like we couldn't afford none of that shit, bro. Maybe 1 or 2 kids in the whole projects had parents that worked and, you know, bought their kids designer shit, but everybody else, niggas couldn't afford that expensive ass Polo mansion. Niggas got the gooses in the Polo mansion, them shit's 900. What we was supposed to do?
That's a that's a fact, homie, and that's rich. That's rich. Just not even Brooklyn, but that's rich New York City history that you're giving. And so, to the listeners, to elaborate on that point. So some people might say, well, why was Manhattan so desirable to live in or whatever? Manhattan was the industrial area where the money was made at, where all of the Wall Street and the big businesses that affected the entire borough, all of the boroughs in New York City. That's where all of that took place at. And you're right, they had those magnificent. Well, when we used to young, we used to go to Manhattan and look at the size of some of them stores, the enormity of it, like the Benetton store and Macy's and that, what was it, the Helly Hansen store. Yo, bro, it was like a playground that we knew we was in to get crazy in, because again, they had that exclusive top brand clothing and jewelry and stuff that we as black people desired, and still to some extent desire. This day we love fashion, clothes, jewelry, you know, that stuff. But and the prices, we couldn't afford those tags, so we was taking it. And that's why you had so many Brooklyn cats back in the early 80s going to Manhattan to rob. We wasn't necessarily going to Manhattan into Manhattan to the hoods to rob. No, we was going to where the money was. That's where you hear stories on that you got in your channels about dudes digging pockets. And dude, we used to throw garbage cans, bro. Back then, I don't know if you remember, they had the big, tall, kind of like metal or whatever the fuck that was, steel, whatever, that garbage bags and all that. We used to pick those garbage cans up and throw them through the jewelry store windows or the clothing store windows, because this was, I think, before they got hit to that and started making it double pane glass, so you couldn't get through there unless you was blasting through them shits. We used to throw shit through the garbage cans and bricks through the windows and loot and take it off. That's a fact. That's crazy that you touched on that history, because that was a big thing back then. That's
a fact. I got a story on the channel with my bro Saquon, where he got an episode where he cut the shit out of his arm and damn near bled to death trying to jump through one of them jewelry store windows and got cut.
I know those stories all too well, because one of my first jewelry store missions that I went on, I cut my left arm almost to the white knee, and I'm good thing I didn't rupture a vein, because I was sticking my arm through the window of a jewelry store. Now this was another story. It was so many dudes. I told you, dudes would just congregate and meet up. It was Miami. It was Chicago. It was I think I'm not sure if the homie.
Why them dudes was called that? They was really from Miami and Chicago?
I'm not even sure, but I think the dude I went to the school with them when I eventually went to the high or whatever, but no, I don't know. Miami could have been from Miami, Chicago could have been from Chicago, but you know, dudes in New York, I mean, in the hoods in Brooklyn, all that had intricate names, so I don't know why. But whatever fact checkers are, or whoever checks into that history, or it might be some dudes that knew Miami and that knew Chicago and know why they was called Miami, Chicago, maybe they could jump in the comments. But the story was, we was all in the city and we all met up and we was like, yo, and another big geezer dude, I believe his name was Hulk, either Hulk or Hawk.
You talking about Hawk that was in Big Daddy Kane video playing cards with him?
Yeah, sorry, that's my son. He was He was from the era of the smashing the windows and the jewelry store heists, and all this is before the guns came into play. Yeah, that dude right there that you just mentioned, that's what I'm talking about. It was him, myself, it was Miami, it was Chicago, it was a bunch of dudes. It was so many, it was the Boston dudes, Shoe Shine and all that. Juju, God bless him, Juju was there at that time and all that. Yo, matter of fact, let me correct that. Juju wasn't there. When we got back to the hoods trying to sell a jewelry, I think I tried to sell something, one of the pieces that I got to Juju. But back to the story, I think it was either Miami or Chicago threw the brick through the window, but it didn't shatter the whole joint. When he threw it through the window, it just made like a little hole. So somebody else, it was either Miami or Hawk, one of them dudes, picked up the garbage can, the steel, the green garbage can, and they threw it, you know what I mean, and kept smashing it into the window until it made a bigger hole, and then, you know, it was just a free fall. Everybody run to the window and stick their hand in there, and it's the snatch and grab game. And then think about it, lads, how brazen is this? Because I'm quite sure, you know, they have police and detectives and all that everywhere. We didn't care though, because we was 50 to 75 to 100 deep, and this was my mentality. I was always athletic. You know what I mean? Coming up, I always played ball, baseball, football. You know what I mean? I was always athletic and fast, and I ran track. I was really, really fast. So in my mind, I used to always tell my homies from Sumner, when we get up with all these other crews from different areas, I was like, yo, bro, don't be the slowest one, because the slowest one is going to be the dude that the police jump on their back. So I was always confident that once I got my hand in there and we was grabbing, and dudes like the police is coming, I always knew that my speed was going to enable me to last in the chase and to get away. So I was never fearful of those type of brazen Manhattan Midtown robberies, because I knew that my foot game on the chase wasn't no white man, black man in no police uniform with a big gun and a nightstick and all that. They wasn't catching me. You know? Even the D's that thought they was younger and faster, they wasn't catching me. I know they probably like, whoever that black motherfucker right there is, he need to be a track star instead of a robber, because he was gone. Gone. Yeah, lads. Yeah, you brought back some flashbacks in my head, bro. I haven't seen or heard or thought about Miami and Chicago and Hawk and them in so long, bro. We in 2023. This is shit that we was doing in 80, 81. Like, you know what I mean? This shit is crazy, but you know, that's some of that rich Brooklyn history.